Hello, my friends. Tiffany Carole here, and welcome to Metamorphosis. This is a beautiful, rich, creative, I think super interesting series of dialogues with master creator Rakia'el Webb and myself. It's an honor and a
Mm.
privilege. We've had a couple of rounds of series. We're just starting the second one, and in this one in particular, we've been focusing on what we're creating, how we're creating, and what's possible for creation in we often refer to as this next paradigm that is being
Mm.
constructed together in real time through us. So I'm going to hit live on my Instagram. And then, Raquel,
Okay.
you want to dip into what we were feeling come up for theme together?
Yeah. So we've been having similar experiences. It's always funny to watch the mythological story unfold in our lives and the fact that we have similar experiences. Um, but really feeling into what it's like to be a female founder, female entrepreneur, and a creative luminary at this time in this new paradigm. And really, in that, stretching into how good can we let it be? Because there is the old paradigm that says that struggle and hustle and, you know, working all the time is part of it. And I feel like, especially for us as women, it's this invitation to lean into a different paradigm, a different story. And so, really feeling into how good can you let it be and receiving in a whole new level while simultaneously still maintaining the momentum of your devotion to your business, your creative expression in the world.
I think that's really, really uh, it. There's a discernment piece that you just brought in that I think is really important because I think one of the hallmarks of, again, I'm going to use this verbiage of old paradigm, new paradigm, just because it's easy, but I also want to say that in terms of how consciousness evolves, it's a fluid sort of movement. It's really a spiral, and so it's not really a black or white thing. However, it it can be experienced as an absolute difference in the body and in the nervous system in any given moment. I'm going to give an example in a minute. But so it's like we're actually actively disembedding ourselves from previous operating systems. And those operating systems made sense for the times that we were in. They don't make sense for us anymore, which is why we feel such certain kinds of excruciating, like, no, I don't want that anymore. No. And yet I'll just speak for myself. I can say, like, I don't want to create from hustle, and I want to be more easeful and more flowing, and I want to have greater trust that everything that I need comes as I need it, and also what I want comes just because I want it, that me just wanting it is enough for it to also flow. Like, I can say all those things, but actually being a person who can interface with my life and whatever the circumstances are in my life, who can be the person who can interface with whatever the circumstances are in a way that actually creates that reality of ease, of embodied trust, because that's not handed to me from outside of me. It's something that I create, that you create, that we create together. And so I guess what I want to get to here is that as we're disembedding ourselves, part of that disembedding is that we have the mental and emotional desires that are birthed that say, like, no, I don't want that. Yes, I want this. But then there's the daily practice of okay, what does that look like if I am becoming that person through the creative acts that I take every day in my life in terms of how I construct my life? Because there's work involved in that. There's work, and you use the word devotion, I think, which I love. There's a there's there the devotion becomes that, and so it's not like all of a sudden you're just laying belly up with like pina coladas delivered to you, and you don't do anything, um, because we are creative beings and we have urges to do things. But what I want to say this more simply, and then pause, is there's a difference between easy and easeful.
Mm.
And I don't actually think that this passage that we're traversing as humans right now is easy.
Definitely not.
But but I do, and I experience this firsthand. Is that it can be far more easeful
Mm.
than perhaps we have experienced, and I do think that there are certain orientations and certain keys that help it to be more easy, and that's part of what we're demonstrating here, through our transparent dialogues about how we're creating.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that uh really entering into a new paradigm, and the thing that I think we're both touching on is that at least I can speak from my experience that there's a lot of talk about I don't know, this kind of like feminine way of doing business and being more in the flow and having more space and it being more spacious and things like that. And at the same time, I'm like, I have Mars and Capricorn in the first house. I like to work. And so in that way where it's like, and what I said was that it was like the momentum of the devotion,
Mm,
because I feel like that, because I've leaned way back in the past 2 years. I felt like I leaned way back in my business, and I'd really experimented with, and this was from a human design perspective, but it was like I really experimented with shifting the way that I was doing things and not actually doing the work that was required to maintain the momentum
mm.
of my business and of my creative expression. And so, yeah, I feel
Can
like
I
at
ask you a
least.
question about that? I'm sorry I'm
Yeah,
interrupting, but it feels important.
yeah.
Um, do you said not doing the work that was required to maintain the momentum, and and also, do you feel that what was happening to you through that choice that you made to step way back was really important and maybe even key to you coming into a different relationship with your business like you are now?
Definitely, definitely. And it's like, and I interpret things from an astrological, perspective. And so, I was in the middle of my Uranus opposition. And so in the Uranus opposition, there's all of this energy that's released within your body that's meant to fuel you for the second half of life. And I was talking about this with a student in class today, and because she's in the middle of her Uranus opposition, and it was like, when that energy is released, it's this kundalini energy that's released from the base of your spine during the Uranus opposition, and that serpentine energy undulates between life and death.
Mm,
And so there is absolutely, in our mid 40s, we have to confront death.
Mm,
And so, very much, we have to be in that death initiation where it's like you don't have the energy to be in the momentum of your devotion. And you're disassembling everything that you've built up to that point.
mhm,
And there's a rightness and an appropriateness in that, where it's almost kind of like you're kind of like laid out, like where you're kind of laid out horizontal, where it's like you can't really do the things that you used to do in the way that you used to do them. And on the other side of that, for me, in my experience, I can only speak from my experience, that it's like I had to say yes to my mission, to my purpose, looking death in the face and being like, no, I'm choosing to rise. I'm
mm,
choosing to be in my service. I'm choosing life.
phew,
And so there's a real volition
mm,
that has to build up in your system from not doing the work, and letting things fall apart and letting things
mhm,
disassemble, in order to be able to get out of the chrysalis. You
mhm,
have to allow that momentum of like, no, I choose life. I choose my mission. I choose to live. And
can I
and
can I
that is what gets you out of the chrysalis.
this this you said, going from not doing the work and then choosing, and what I want to add to it is, at least how I experienced it, is there was a work that was being done to me. There was a work,
100%.
and it was so, because I am used to doing the work, and I'm I'm sort of a recovering workaholic, and I actually needed to be, things needed to be dismantled in relationship to work for me, and also to roles within the work for me. And it was it was really quite excruciating at times, because I'm used to, like, okay, tell me how to do it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Even if it's like from me to me telling me how to do it. But like, let's figure this out. Let's make a plan. Let's go. And and in the case for what I went through, which I know was not my Uranus opposition, because it wasn't, the last 2 years were really similar for me as to you, but I was going through my Chiron return time.
Exactly.
And so then the work was to actually, like, the sort of excruciating of surrender of this. It's acceptance, I suppose, on a spiritual, it's spiritual acceptance, like a kind of radical acceptance, which wasn't really always graceful for me.
Mm.
Um, but there were periods of grace in there, and so that was me choosing to do the work, because it's the only work that I could actually do during that time, because anything other than that was out of integrity for what was
Mm.
happening. I couldn't force myself into continuing to run programs that I had run before, or offer up certain things that I had, just because I needed the money or wanted the money, or because that's what I should do if I'm focusing on my work. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's very much the same thing, a similar experience for when you're in your mid 40s, when you go through the Uranus opposition, and also when you cross 50. It's a very
Mhm.
similar experience. Yeah.
So how does I would love to hear you share about anything that you want to share around this. How good can you let it be
Mm.
in relationship to this conversation that has a tremendous amount of nuance and discernment that's operating within it?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a wild, wild journey in my life and in my business over the past several months. And things, in the beginning, in February, I felt like I was running for my life. Like I was I felt like things were slipping, and I felt like, oh my god, like failure might be right around the corner. Like I could feel that sense of failure just kind of like, and I was like, no, 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 no. And so then since then, it's been really this act of devotion of like showing up for my business every day, posting every day. And where before I was like, oh, that's not correct for me as a projector. It's not correct for me as an emotional being. Um, but I really gathered this momentum about like, no, it's me being dedicated to my creative expression and to my muse and letting my muse know that she has a space with me every day even if I don't feel inspired. And the real prayer was that it's not me who's posting, it's her. This creative force that moves the, you can call it God, right? It's like same thing. Um, but so I would be like, I don't feel inspired. I don't have energy. I don't know what to post. But then I would tell her, be like, you have the stage. What would it's like the Course of Miracles. What would you have me do? What would you have me say? What would you have me post? And so then slowly but surely, it would be like literally, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't feel like I had the energy. And then I would just open that space for her. And then idea comes in. And it's like, okay, let's do that. And so then that would be it. And so it was just letting her know that she always had time with me. She always had space with me and not making it that I had to do it all.
Mm,
Um, and so then, yeah, it was like unexpected things started flowing into my life. And it was like, wow, like,
mhm.
okay, like how good can I let this get? The story that I was telling you that I said that I would also share here was um, uh, there's someone in my life now. And so we've been spending some time together, and it was like, wow, like how good can I let this get? And so then, it was Sunday, and I was had time that I was going to spend with my girlfriends, and so we went up to Haleakala, the volcano here on Maui, and it was like epic, epic. It was raining here, down here. It was raining, and then my friend was like, "I feel like we should go," and I was like, "It was for the Capricorn full moon," and I was like, "Really? I mean, it's completely raining. Like, are you sure?" And she was like, "Yeah, I just have this feeling. I just have this feeling." And so I've seen her in action before, and I was like, in Hawaiian, in Olelo, you would say, I trust her na'au, which is her like intuitive gut. She's also a sacral generator. And so she was like, no, I'm just getting this feeling. And I was like, let's go. So we get in the car, we get our friend, we go up there. The parking lot's full. The guy is telling us there's no parking in there. And my friend is like, no, I were supposed to be here. So there will be a parking space. So she gets out of the car, goes to him and talks to him. He finally lets us actually in. We're driving around. Mind you, it's sunset. So everybody is like settling in. They've got their, cozies and they're getting ready to watch the sunset. No one's leaving. But there's this guy who lives here. We can tell by his car, and he's walking back to his car. He sees us, and he's like, come take my spot. And we're like, oh my
Mm.
god, we're getting a parking spot, like the unthinkable thing. And then it was like, as soon as we come over, we parked, we come out, we're going out, we're looking into the crater. There's this beautiful rainbow that comes around your shadow. It's a thing that only happens in the crater, where there's a
Wow.
rainbow in the mist that's around your shadow. And it was just the most epic. And one thing after another, we did prayers, and like one thing after another was just like it gets better and better and better. Then we're coming down, and we've been talking about a night rainbow. And so then I was like, oh my God, I think that's it. So we're driving down, and I was like, I think I see a night rainbow. And so then we pulled off, and it's this full moon night rainbow that's going into Venus. And it was just like,
Wow.
it just keeps getting better and better and better. And then we come home, and the night rainbow is still there in my backyard. And then it was like I tried to call my friend who I was hanging out with before, and to tell him, like, what an epic time it was. He didn't answer, and so I was like, okay, maybe it's just that we've been together a lot, and it's just like he doesn't want to. Uh, he's got other things going on. I was like, cool, I'll just leave some audio messages. And so then I leave some audio messages for him, telling him about, and then this happened, and oh my God, it was so cool. So then I'm making dinner. He calls me back and we're chatting. And I was like, did you listen to my messages? And he said, yeah. And then he was like, what else are you manifesting? And I was like, well, not you coming over because we've spent like so many days together. And he was like, oh, really? And then he like knocked on my front door. And I was like, what is actually happening? So it was like, can it get even better? Even
Mm,
better, even better, even better. Um, so like wild things. And then in my business, where it was like, I decided to do shamanic star sound again, which was also divine inspiration. And and I was just like, what if I did a super flash sale, like super insane flash sale, only for 48 hours? And it wasn't even that you would actually get into the course. You would get a welcome email that would say we would let you into the course in a couple of days because we were still getting things prepared. So letting go of that story that everything has to be all set up and all ready to go, but just being like, I get to change it. I get to do it how I want to do it. And because there are people in my community who've held the torch for me, knowing that, praying that one day I would come back to teaching sound healing. So emailing, I just emailed 30 people. I emailed 30 people who were on the list. And then within 24 hours, I emailed the whole rest of the list. And it was like the response from the community was incredible. We had 20 people sign up in 48 hours, and it was the most money that I ever made in one day. And it was just like, oh my goodness, it gets to be easier. And you get to do it outside of the rules of how you're supposed to do it,
mm,
and it gets to work in your favor. And it was just like
mm.
mind blown, like on so many levels of my life, like mind blown. It gets to be easier, and I get to do it my way, not the way that I've been told that it's supposed to be.
And how, uh, what did that bring up in you that you had to actually journey with in order to let it be good? Because that's really part of what we're illuminating here too.
Yeah, yeah. So all of my stories of referencing and looking outside of myself for how it has to go,
Mhm,
and then also really surrendering to the fact that it's like I get to have a good life.
mm,
I get to have fun, and I get to be of service, and I get to receive from being in service, and I don't always have to be pushing all the time.
mm, mm. And did when you were like in that experience of um, your the previous operating system and the conditioning around it coming up, did there's a question here. I'm just feeling for the nuance of it. I guess somewhere in here is going to be a question. I I think that without the context that you and I are weaving in here, and the context is very specific because we're weaving in context from our own lived life at the very edge of emergence. That's a pretty specific kind of context. It's not normal. Normally, when we set context, it's referencing the past as the context itself. And what we're saying is we're providing context. Ooh, I have chills over my whole body. We're providing context right now that is it's emergent context from our own lived life, the experimentation and 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 the choices that we're making. And the choices that we're making are a reflection of what we're aligning with.
Mm.
So you're choosing this. I get to have a good life. I get to have more of what I want. It gets to be better. You're choosing that in the face of the conditioning that's there. In the face of internal, for me, it'll often be like a thought form, a sort of pre-verbal thought form that comes up that's just like wrong. Just like wrong. You are wrong. Stop. And so if I'm not paying attention, I just respond to that, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm divided, and I'm not actually letting myself have more of what's good. It doesn't get to be better and better. I'm all of a sudden in some kind of experience of torment because of that division. So, yeah, I guess I'm sort of probing at the nuance here, because I think that if people don't have this context or don't lean into this context, the default is just like you're going along feeling like, something's good, a wonderful relationship comes along, more money comes in or whatever, and then that the default operating system is like, no, this isn't okay. And then you
Mm,
shut down and then personalize the whole experience. And that's a real, very real kind of challenging space to be
yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel myself in that now where it's kind of like, wow, it's and the fact that I know astrology is kind of like a double-edged sword, because I'm having a really great transit right now, and that I'm like, oh, but it's not going to last, because the story is that it's not going to last because the transit
Mhm,
will move off and then it will end. But then
mhm,
it's like, but then I have to recenter and remember, like, I am the creator, and it's,
mm,
that it's like that the experiences that I've had have really been accumulation of me believing in myself, because I've been
mm,
putting in so much work over these past months around mindset and meditation and working out, and really doing some deep work deconstructing some beliefs and feeling the deep feelings of feeling like I'm afraid of things spiraling out of control.
mhm,
And that feel like I have to be in control and I can't trust God. And so it's like I've been doing some deep, deep, deep excavation of all of that. And so to remember that it's like my lived experience, the expression of my life right now, is a reflection of everything that I've been putting in. And
mm,
yes, there are astrological transits that are involved, but I get to choose how I relate to my life now. And so it's that coming up against those edges that say, like, it can't last. And it's like,
mhm,
well, I can maintain, like, I've maintained this. And so on an energetic level, to
mhm.
know that that is coming from me.
Oh, so good. This is so good. This is so good, this conversation. Okay, I'm feeling some things coming. One is, um, I want to describe my something around the how good can you let it get in my experience of more recent, and because it has a lot of similarities to yours in terms of energy, and there's something that's distinctly different, which I also think is fascinating, maybe considering the I don't know, who knows the astrology stuff or the age difference or whatever it is. But I so okay, let's see. Yeah, I know I want to tell that story. The setup is, so just for anyone that might be watching or hearing me for the first time, I'm 51 now, and I got pregnant with my daughter at 48. And it's the only child I have, and I had this. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I'm a driven creator. I love to create, and I have no shortage of creative energy that flows through me at any given time. And I have many facets to my business that have developed over the years. And I'm also, I'm accomplished and I mean that from the not from the perspective of somebody saying to me, Tiffany, you are accomplished. I mean, like, I am accomplished because I have given my life and my energy and my focus to what is possible for human beings,
Mm.
what is possible for us as these humans, standing between heaven and earth as conduits who can flow, infinite creative intelligence through this finite body with these eyeballs and these hands and this brain. And uh, I, as I mentioned before, I've been going through this great dismantling, and I'm still sort of having a higher perspective on this dismantling and how to describe it in ways that are grounded and feel fruitful. But what I am aware of is that I needed to be disentangled from certain things, certain ways of being, and that served me up until then, but needed to be disentangled for me to actually expand my capacity for power in an uncorruptible or uncorrupted way. And I also needed to be, apparently because it happened, untangled around certain things with money. And uh, I decided to go on a cruise, an Abraham Hicks cruise, which was like on my bucket list thing. And I didn't think that there was any way. This happened actually this year in April, and I didn't think there was any way I was going to be able to go because of the money situation at the moment. And it just didn't seem like at all the responsible thing to do. Like, there was monies that were owed out, and then to take what money I did have and put it to this felt like that was being irresponsible. Or, yeah, irresponsible is probably the easiest way to say it. But there was something like, I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed to do it. And so I chose to go on the cruise. And actually, the way it played out was part of the how good can you let it get, because I wouldn't have been able to just sign up for it in time with the amount of money that I had. And there was a beautiful friend who had actually been a previous client of mine and in my mastermind, who I had just reached out to her to say, because I knew that she had done past cruises and I wanted to let her know. And she wasn't even planning on going on that one. And then she said, I am going now, and we're roommates. And then I said, okay, well, I just want you to know I'm not quite 100% certain I can go yet, because the resources are coming. I'm manifesting them, baby. And she's like, I'll pay. You pay me when you've got it, right? How easeful could I let it get? But that required that I get behind it, that I get behind that decision to be there, even though the resources weren't already there. And even though everything in my head was saying, you can't do this, it's completely irresponsible considering the current circumstances that you're in. So I got to the cruise, and it was my first time away from Kiara, my daughter. I had weaned her just like 2 weeks before. And so there was a lot happening, hormonally, emotionally, psychically. It was a lot. It was quite significant. And on this cruise, it's like everything's taken care of for you. You just like show up, you eat, you drink, you dance, you go swimming, you lay in the sun, you talk to amazing people, and then you go sit with Esther, who's channeling Abraham, which is it's such an extraordinary vibrational stream. And for me, it's been one of the purest streams for me that reflects back to me what I feel like I
Mm.
came into this life really knowing, as part of, if we want to call it, the highest truth of what's possible for me as a human. So I'm in this, and I would like go into this ecstatic, energy of the bliss of being alive. And then all of a sudden I'd hit an edge of that, and the edge would feel something like, how I'm going to describe actually how it would play out because I think this is beneficial is I would open up my bank account, my app for my bank account and see how much money was in there and then it would be like it would be that energy of wrong like get to fucking work, Tiffany. What are you doing? Like you should not be doing this right now. You should not be having fun. You need to work to make money. You need to work to make money. And then I tried doing like making a live video when I was there to sell something that I had up for sale at the time. And I mean, I like it, the video wasn't working. It was glitching. It wouldn't happen. It was like the universe was conspiring to just say, Tiffany, just like surrender to the play.
Mm.
Surrender to the play. And every time you hit that edge and then shut down, because I would down a little bit and then, like stay under the covers, not get up early, opt out of going and doing things just because I needed to tend to myself and shift the energy. And that's what I would do. And so that was my devotion during that time. And I even, I did things like I had a couple one on one sessions with people that I canceled while I was there. And I just told them the truth. I said, look, there's something happening to me right now. All I know is that I cannot do anything that I have previously considered work and be in integrity with my process right now. And even though there was hovering like right here, these little thought forms that were like, Tiff, you could be really off base and actually just fucking things up. Or pardon my, I don't know why I'm called to use the F word right now, but I am. But you could just actually be messing things up right now and destroying your business and your life and under the guise of having more fun. But that was
Mm.
also something that I had to traverse that being there and choosing to continue to surrender into that. How good can I let it be here? I'm just going to eat and drink and dance and enjoy myself and then take care of myself when I hit that edge and recoil and then choose to come into alignment with the trust capacity that I know is there in me and that's also building in these moments that I'm here. And so the part that I want to draw out that feels a little bit different from my edge right now is that, and perhaps it's not, I'm curious to hear what you say, is that I've I've actually had to feel what it feels like to um, not post regularly or not do work in the ways that I've done it before, just to have that complete disentangling. And by the way, now it has pretty much had its way with me. I'm in the very ends of it. And as I've been sort of returning into a new stream or a restream of it all, is that I want to do things daily. I want to because it feels fabulous. And I prefer to be in the momentum of creating than falling out of that stream and then experiencing all those thought forms that come up in relationship to it in this sort of inertia
Mm.
that then I have to overcome to get back into the stream. That just takes a bit more work than I'm willing to do now. So I'm letting, I'm like, the query for me is, how can it all be play?
Mm.
Which isn't a denial of the effort, the noble effort that's involved. But how can I let it genuinely be playful? Which I suppose is my version of you saying about talking about the muse, which I love. Um, how there's one more piece coming that I want to articulate is oh yes, it's this. Okay. So so this is like in these moments in these last few weeks because there really is a focus that's being asked for in me that's remarkable and important right now. And I think I mentioned this in our last live is that I've been called to wake up every day. I mean, I'm just waking up at 4:30, but I could choose to go back to sleep, but I get up and I take that time and I do my practices. Um, I didn't do it recently. We were on just a little vacation for like a week, and I didn't do it every day there. But I did do it on some of the days, and prior to that, I was just every single day because I know that I'm important. Like, I know that I'm important, and I know that what comes through me is important,
Mm,
and it deserves this. And part
mm,
of what that's been for me also as a mother is these sort of this isn't the best way to describe it, but like hard lines with Rory and with even with Kiara, which are around like this space that I'm carving out that's for me and for creation and for what wants to move through. And I've even stopped referring to it as like I've got to work. It's more just like in this time frame, I'm not available to you both. I love you, and of course, if there's emergencies, I'm available. But otherwise, like this is needed. This space, this cocooning is needed for what's coming through. So, but that has a very different energy than before, where it's like I've got to go to work and I've got to do this work in order to bring in the money. Where there's a little bit of martyrdom in there, and I'm not totally in my power. And there's places where victimy energy can come in without me even totally knowing it.
mm.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. That was a lot.
Something that really stood out to me as I was receiving you is that, like how because I know I feel this question from some people who might be watching, or it's like, how did you come to that realization that you are important and that
Mm.
your work in the world is important, that your contribution to this world is important?
Such a brilliant question. You know, it's a funny big uh, way that I'm being called to answer this. Um, what I'm trusting is so I died at birth. I'd stopped breathing and I didn't take a breath on my own for 53 minutes. I was born at home and outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it was the middle of a blizzard. And so I was being transported in the middle of the blizzard to the nearest hospital, which is why it took so long to get to a hospital. And when we got there, there was a woman that had been giving me baby CPR all the way in the vehicle, and they just said to my mom, "She's dead. What, uh, you know?" This is how I received the story, anyways. Like, what do you want us to do? My mom, when it was in hysterics, and she's like, "You have to at least try to resuscitate her." And they said, "We will. We can intubate her. We can try to resuscitate her, but uh, if for some reason, for some miraculous reason, she is resuscitated, you'll be sorry." That's what they told her. "You'll be sorry because she'll be so brain damaged." And and so they intubated me and put me in a revived, put me in a. I was in a neonate, one of those neonate bubbles thingies, and I grew up with my mom saying that, telling me the story of this and saying that she was with me every day in that incubator, next to that incubator, praying to God that if I lived, that she would dedicate my life to him. And so I had this like, my life is dedicated to God, and I didn't exactly choose it. And then when I was 13 years old, um, but it was sort of part of my myth,
Mm,
part of the myth that was told to me or that I was given that was in me. And then when I was 13, I specifically remember I was very rebellious, saw all of this hypocrisy in the church that my parents were going to, and I remember my girlfriend and she stole this 100-year-old bottle of cognac from her father's liquor cabinet, and we didn't know it was like a $900 bottle of cognac, and we were drinking it, and I remember going, God, my life might belong to you, but I'm taking it back. And then this sort of set me on this trajectory of, mayhem. Really, I had a pretty wild. It's just like genuinely a miracle that I lived through everything that I chose to do during that period. And I always had this feeling that's like I couldn't get too far from God, whatever that means. And it became more personal for me in the sense that uh, it, it it became mine instead of my mom's
Mm.
sort of mandate. And um, I had a complete physical, mental, emotional breakdown in my 20s, like complete, and uh, and then rebuilt myself step by step by step. And so I think the sort of sheer extreme nature of how I came in, how I fell apart, how I rebuilt, and then beginning to see the impact that I was having on other people simply because of my presence, like seeing that. It didn't have anything to do with my ego. It was just something that I was seeing. That I would say that is what gives me such now for in this place, such confidence when I say I know that I'm important. Like I'm here. We could say I'm here against all odds. Clearly, I chose to come in and then chose to come back, and I've had some experiences of sort of reuniting with those me's in this timeline, and just sort of feeling the significance of my yeses. But I want to say this for anyone listening. It's like while my story can be more extreme or is more extreme, we could say, I don't think that somebody has to have an extreme story to experience the importance of themselves in this very moment. Because if you just stop in this moment and feel like it is a freaking miracle that you're here. Like you're here, made up of stardust, incarnated at this time, survived childbirth, survived your childhood, survived your teenage years. You are here. You are significant for existing. You're made up of the rarest stuff in the universe. And you're here now with all of your lived life, all of your experience, listening to these words. Like, it's just this land in the significance. It's right here, and it's always right here. It's always right here. And I think, I know the more that I land in that significance and choose that significance and land in that significance, it just radically reorients everything. And then the devotion has a different quality to it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that I like how you said that it's like the devotion has a different quality to it when you know that you're here on purpose. And I'll
Mm,
also say that it doesn't you don't have to have, you know, as dramatic of a story. Your story is beautiful.
mm,
And it's like you can have a very simple story
mm,
and also really feel and know in your being that I just really don't think that anybody is here right now
mm,
at this time on our planet as like filler.
mm,
Like I feel like if you're here right now, it's because there is some very important contribution that you have to make, whether that is to, your family and your children as a mother, or
mm,
whether that's to, if you're a school teacher, the kids that you're teaching, or, if you're, teaching online, or doing, you're touring and you're a musician, or like
mm,
whatever. It's like I really, really have this, and I really want everyone who's hearing this to like feel that it's like you are here on purpose, and you have gifts that you need to share and to give. Um, and I feel like it really does. We posted that post about integrity, and we both
Mm,
kind of resonated about that, and that it's that so much of the world is designed to distract us and kind of disorient us from what our true desires are,
mm,
and that it's a practice every day to refine your actions and to always be asking that question: are my actions in alignment with my true desires right now?
mhm, mhm,
And it's not like, oh, well, I desire to, I don't know, like, have a lot of money, or I desire to, like, whatever. It's like that. It's like, there's, as long as you have a desire that is beyond yourself, where it's like, I desire to help people, I desire to uh, share my gifts in a way that is making a contribution to people's lives.
mm.
And yeah, and really feeling like that your actions are lining up with that.
I want to say, just to push a little into this. I don't think I think that the desire to have a lot of money also can be, just a very pure, beautiful
Sure.
desire. That I mean, I really feel like any of our desires that are our genuine desires are, part of the golden thread. And, like, for example, just to give an example of that, it's that I love staying in expensive hotels. Really nice five-star boutique hotels that used to be royal residences. Like, I love it. And I've gone through this whole evolution of that, of like, Tiff, it's ridiculous to spend that amount of money on a room when you could have another kind of place. It's not nearly as much. And but there's something I can't, nobody told me to have that desire. It's just my desire. And it's been an evolution of other desires. And when I actually let myself have that sort of union with that desire, um, there's always an incredible expansion and deeper integration that happens in me. Like, there's something about the kind and the quality of spaces that I go into, and being surrounded by artfulness and care. It reorders my system. How I create content and the ideas that come through me are, oh, it's just exquisite. So I will say, just speaking for myself, like, I don't sort of separate what my sort of more altruistic desires are from my, say, less altruistic desires are. I see them as all connected. And I
Mm.
just know that as um, I will say, though, there is a discernment piece around, like, hungry, grasping desire, and just a sort of pure, like, I want to do that, or I want to experience that. The hungry, grasping desire would be like, there's a needy energy to it, that's that, like, if I don't get that, or I need that in order to be something or someone, that's how I
Mm.
would describe the qualitative difference. Like money, I totally desire to flow big, large, beautiful sums of money. And I've also had the experience before where that hunger's come in, that, like, I need it in a way that doesn't actually even allow it to flow, and it doesn't feel correct for who I am, and it can take me out of the energy of service.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm here for that too. But I think, yeah, like being in that energy of service, where it really is like transitioning from that space of working in order to make money
Mm,
to to making a contribution, where it's like,
mm,
this is what is needed by my community right now, and for me to be of service to them requires effort.
mm, mm.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I would connect to that, being of service to my community also requires the effort for me of feeling good. So
100%.
correct. So making choices and decisions, like I told I to everyone watching, I was telling Raquel before we got on that this is my first live in this new apartment, and we're in Sri Lanka, and I had booked another apartment um, because I was trying to save money. And I found one that was kind of that energy of, oh, we can make this work. Oh, we can make this work. Even though I know that I do have a certain standard, that standard has nothing to do with making anyone or anything else less than me. It's just simply a standard of what I know feels really good to my body, to my nervous system, to my creative flow. And we got to that apartment in there, and it was just like, this is not going to work. This is not okay. And so then there was a whole scramble to find another place, and we came to this beautiful place. But um, this thing about me being, I know that I'm here in service. Like, I know that I'm here in service, and I know that part of my in-serviceness is a sort of kind of radical choice for feeling good, for
Mm,
Tiffany feeling good, like Tiffany feeling good, and not letting those be somehow separate, because historically they really have been, especially for people that are in the healing arts and sort of
mm.
spiritually minded people. It's like, in order to be of service, then I somehow need to deny all of this. And I've been playing with, oh no, what if that's coexisting? What do you feel with that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it's been a similar experience for me in, in my life and in my career, where it's like when I, have been flowing large sums of money and then allowed myself to go and have these really big, beautiful experiences, and to be like, and I feel inspired in this space, and there's energy that's different, energy that's flowing, and so I'm going to record videos for a course in this space and
Mm.
allow that energy of expansion to come through into that material that I'm creating from that space. So yeah, definitely a feeling that the more that we take care of ourselves, then the greater capacity we have to be of service.
Here's the here's the piece that's so beautiful, that I think brings it full circle to our beginning of this conversation, which was about, what we wove in about emergent context, is that in the previous paradigm, this conversation, and it's still, quite frankly, very easy to slip into this energy dynamic, which is, um, sometimes I call it an unproductive polarity, but it's like, this is wrong and that is right. Like, for example, in our conversation right now, someone could, or we could go into this dynamic of, we're figuring out now what's more right.
Mm,
What's more right than what was. But in actually doing that, we still set up a similar dynamic to what was the operating system of the previous paradigm, which is like good, bad, right, wrong, figure out the problem, get the solution. And in this new paradigm that we're co-creating together in real time, there's a real sort of fluidity of exploration that does have to be led through your individual preference connected to how good you feel, because that becomes part of the navigational pool, if you will, or the primary navigational system. And when we're in it, when we're in this context and having emergent dialogue, both of our nervous systems rooted in this context, we're actually able to do that. Like, we're exploring, we're discerning, and we're clarifying, but we're not either oring.
mm,
And the result of that is really quite something remarkably different than the other way of figuring
mm,
out the right way now and the wrong. You know what I'm saying?
mhm. Yeah, well,
Mm,
there's lots of judgment woven in there.
mm. What do you feel like you want to offer in summary?
Hmm. I feel like that ultimately, I think this conversation is about expanding your capacity.
Mm,
Expanding your capacity to receive, expanding your capacity to experience beauty and pleasure while simultaneously also being of service. Um, And so there's many different ways to expand your capacity. Um, but I think it's like,
Mm,
a big part for me. I think I'm always gonna like bring it kind of back to like practical things, because it's like,
mm,
okay, cool, it's like a beautiful conversation, but like, what do I do with it? So I feel like that, and I can just share what has worked for me, and I'd love to hear what has worked for you to help you
mm,
expand your capacity. Um, yeah, and this is expanding your capacity to receive, expanding your capacity to feel, and to stay with yourself when you feel uncomfortable, and to ask for support, to ask for help. But it's like, it really is expanding. Like there's that phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so it's
mm,
like, by expanding your capacity in one area of your life, to know that there will be a reciprocity to that. That as you expand in one area, you expand in other areas. Because I think there's sometimes a story that if you expand in one area, somehow you can't expand in another area, where it's like,
mm,
I can't have love and money at the same time. It's like,
mm,
no, that's not true at all. um, so I feel like, for me, it's absolutely been tending to my vessel,
mm,
where it's like making time to meditate, making time to work out, um, and also really stretching myself into like going out dancing, staying up late, like stretching my capacity. Like, can I have these big experiences and still show up for my work and still show in my service? And to also,
mm,
that expanding your capacity to be in relationship with God, where it's like sometimes you don't have the capacity, but you ask God to give it to you. You ask God to come through you and like widen my vessel, allow me to experience and to serve in a greater level that I can't do by myself. Please do for me what I cannot do for myself.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I'm so curious, what do you feel like are some things that have helped you to expand your capacity?
Well, I feel like it's a sort of a twofold thing. There's my capacity has just simply been expanded through this period of contrast or challenge, if you want to call it that. Um, but I don't think that I would be experiencing the fruits of that capacity if I wasn't choosing the context, the liberating context that we've been weaving in. So another way of saying that is like, I think challenging times do have the potential to open us up. That's part of what happens, like the friction, we're getting rubbed, we're getting broken down. So there's an increase in space and capacity, but being able to sort of play with and dance with that increased capacity then requires that you view the whole experience of challenge in an, I say, an impersonal way, but it's like, it's not quite the most accurate way to describe it. It's like I had to make choices for myself around how to view and hold all of these challenging experiences. uh, I had to make choices on how to view and hold that allowed me to enjoy the capacity. So what does that look like practically? It meant ceasing telling a story of telling the stories of how hard things are from a place where I'm not actually choosing self responsibility.
Mm,
Um,
huge.
it Yeah, it meant being more selective, like super selective about what I expose myself to in terms of media or what I read, what I put in myself, and who I surround myself with. And then it meant doing the inner work through the outer work that allowed me to be in these warriorship spaces. So what I mean by that is like, I need I need to work out. I need to do my spiritual practices. When I don't do those, I get squishy. And I don't mean my body squishy, even though, yeah, that's true. But I just mean like I actually get squishy. Like I'm not as clear in my thinking. I'm not as fierce in my actions aligned with my integrity. Um, yeah, I'm squishy. It's things aren't as focused. So I'd say it's like the choices. It's the choices. It's the choices. And taking those choices seriously, but not from the place that makes myself bad or wrong. In any moment when I'm not able to make those choices, or when I am, being squashy or whatever, like not making any of that bad or wrong, but yet continuing to return to like, what are the choices that are actually supporting what I say I want?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my work and my work alone. No one can do that
Mm-hmm.
work for me. So that's how I would describe the practical aspect.
I love it. I hear that integrity piece coming back again too.
You hear what?
That integrity piece coming back again.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a super valuable dialogue.
Mm-hmm. So good. So good.
Thank you, thank
And
you. And Raquel and I will be back together again. We haven't said yet, but decided yet, but soon, next week or the week after.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tune back in and share this with others. Share this with others. It's significant. And my website, the main website I want to offer up here is the Lumina Guild, which is a beautiful, brilliant space for meta creators, for visionaries that are laying down the tracks of the future now, letting our life be our art. And Raquel, share whatever you would like.
Yeah. So, of course, here on Instagram, I am Rakia'el, and my website is rakia'el.com. And yeah, right now I've got my sound healing course is open for enrollment. And so, um, feeling that same kind of revolutionary creative energy about like that as keepers of frequency,
Mm,
right? Carriers of sound medicine. It's like you have to maintain a particular frequency within yourself on the planet. And so everything that we talked about here is absolutely, in a revolutionary way, applicable to working with sound medicine
mm,
and anchoring and holding a very particular type of frequency on the planet at this time for the evolution of human consciousness, and to
mm.
feel how rewarding that can be, as you open to expand your capacity of how good can you allow things to be, being of service in that way.
Wow, wow, wow. And can I plant a seed right now for anyone that happens to still be watching all the way till the very end? You can just say no if it's not feeling right. But what we talked about that's forthcoming between us as a
Mm.
creation, can I plant a little seed for it now? Does that feel
Yes, I love it. I love it.
okay? Because that also feels like part of the creative momentum of it. Raquel and I have been talking about creating something together that's focused on sales, something that we often traditionally don't think of as spiritual or even necessarily creative, but something that feels more sort of laborsome or cumbersome. But both she and I have a brilliant approach to sales that is, I think, just extraordinary and in many ways revolutionary. And we're both pushing our own edge of that, edging our own edge of that in real time. And we spoke about it beautifully in our last live together, actually, if you want to catch that. But that's forthcoming, and I am freaking thrilled about that. So if you heard this and you're excited about it, post it in the comments on whatever platform you listen to this on. We'd like to hear.
Yeah, I think it's really revolutionary because you hear a lot of people talking about this from more of a strategic type of way. And I think you and I have a very different, more spiritual, energetic relationship with really sharing our gifts, which we call sales, but it's actually this devotional practice of sharing your gifts and allowing yourself to receive from sharing your gifts. And it's an initiation, but it's so, so worth it.
Yeah. An initiation and a party.
Yes, completely, completely, completely.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we're going to end stream now. Thank you, Raquel.